Good evening and welcome to True Dogman Encounters. I'm your host, Marvin Allen. If you or anybody that you've known have had a sighting or encounter and would like for me to share it on my channel, then please contact me. I would love to hear from you. Don't forget to like, comment, and share. Like, comment, and subscribe. As you all know, I tried to go live the other night, but certain things happened with that live stream that I didn't approve of. So the guest is willing to come back on and share that again. Just wanted to let y'all know that. I still will be uploading encounters on my YouTube channel. I will get the Ty J. I know I keep saying that. And I'm going to get to it for y'all because it's been a while since I put out her next episode. As you know, anonymity means a lot to me, and I breaks that for no one. So, for this next encounter, without further ado, let's jump right into this encounter. Now, in this encounter right here, it happened in the South. Now, my eyewitness has always lived in the city. But when she came across a piece of land, she said she just had to jump on it. So that's what she did. She moved down south. She moved in, got everything situated. She said for the first few years was lovely. She said after that, then all hell broke loose. She said one day she gets up, gets herself together, she eats, and she goes out. She goes out and she usually goes on a walk. Now, this walk that she goes on, she started it when she first moved down there. She didn't go deep into the woods, but she used to walk. So while out walking this one day, she walking, listening to nature and all that stuff. Then all of a sudden, to her left, she see a few deers. So she stopped and she watched them. She watched them, but then she said she noticed something odd about them. She said their ears went up, like they was alert. Said their ears went up. And then she noticed one of them looks to its right. And when it looks to its right and then turned back, they just bolted. They just got out of there. And she don't know what spooked them. So she looks over there. And when she looks over there, she see a few brushes. And when she looked over there where this brush was at, she noticed that she could see it moving. Like something was in there. Now mind you, these wasn't no small brush. So she looking over there and she noticed something is moving in it. So she watching it. She said all of a sudden you could see this snout emerge from in that brush. And she's still watching. And she's saying to herself, what the is that? So she take a few more steps and she stopped. She said she still can hear commotion in that brush. So she continued to look. And when she looked, she noticed this humongous head emerge from out that brush. That's when she started to walk backwards off that path. And while she doing that, she's still watching that brush. When she see that head come out, and when it come out, ears shoot straight up. And she said to herself, it's some kind of dog. This is what she thinking. She said, but the head on this thing was massive. So she watched the head emerge from out that brush. And when it emerged out that brush, it started to sniff. She said it made it loud sniffs too. And she's still walking back. Now mind you, she's almost out this path. So as she's walking back, she watching this thing sniff. She said all of a sudden, this thing looked right over at her. She said that's when it came from out the brush on all fours. And when it came out on all fours, it stopped. And it just sat there on all fours. She said this thing was too huge to be a dog. She said so when she made it out of that path and out of the woods and right there at the beginning of the tree line, she said that's when this dog type thing, what she's saying in her words, starts to walk. And it walks over and it gets on that path. And it starts to walk in her direction. That's when she turned and she started to walk fast. Now mind you, she still can hear this creature pacing her from behind. So she makes it to her house. She turns around. That's when she see this creature stop near this tree. And when it did that, she said it reached up its front leg, what she thought it was its leg, and it grabbed hold to a tree. And then it stood up on its hind legs. That's when she noticed that wasn't no ordinary dog. And that wasn't no leg from a dog. That was an arm and a hand. She said this creature stood up on its hind legs. And when it did that, she said that's when this creature started to growl. And when it growled, it took its hand from off that tree and it starts to walk across the back. And when it's walking, she hurries up and she goes in the house. She goes in the house and she locks the door. And she peeps out the window. And when she peep out the window, she could still see this creature walking towards her house. She runs and she grabs her phone. When she grabs her phone, she hurries up and she goes back to that back door. Then she goes over and look out the window again. She said the creature was still walking towards the house. She hurries up and she calls. She calls a friend and she tells him, can he come over there because it's something outside our house and she don't know what it is. And then she hung up. Friends come over, knocks at the door. She goes and she opens it. She say, hurry up, come here, come here, come here. Takes him to the back of the window. When she gets back there, it's nothing there. This creature was gone. He say, what? He goes out and he looks around. He looks around to see if he's seen anything. So he walks up to the path. And when he walks up to that path, bam! He said this strong smell of urine and like wet dog smell just hit him, bam. So he knew it was something in the area, but he thinking it's a dog. So he goes back and say he don't see anything. They finish talking and he leaves. She said later on that night, when she's sitting in there and she watching TV, she noticed footsteps walking around our house. She said it just kept pacing around the house. She said it did this around 3 or 4 times and then it stopped. And where it stopped at, it stopped near the front. And when it stopped near the front, that's when she can hear this creature starts to turn the doorknob like it was trying to get in. So she jumps up. She's scared now. She jumps up. She grabs her phone again. She said, but when she grabbed the phone this time, this creature let out this sound that broke her down to her core, that made her freeze in her tracks. Boom, she drops the phone. She's terrified now. She said that sound scared her to death. She said after that growl, that's when she can hear the footsteps start up again as it starts to walk around the house. So she walking through the house, following these footsteps. She said that's when the footsteps stops at her bedroom. And when it stops at her bedroom, she stands in the door. She said that's when she could see this large silhouette shadow emerge in front of her window. And when it did that, that's when she looked over and she see that her window is cracked open just a little bit. But she got the locks on it. But it's still open. So she began to walk in the room. She said that's when she could see these huge, long fingers reach in that window and try to lift it up. She said it kept lifting it up. You know how to make it, she said, you know how to make that sound when you lift it up and it, even though it's locked, you can hear it go. She said it kept doing that. She said that's when this creature pulled its hand back out and started to run its claws down the glass. She said that sound was so eerie that it sent chills through her body. So she's still standing there. And she watching this creature. She said that's when this creature turned and it began to walk again. And this time when it walks back around towards the front. And when it walks around towards the front, she said it stopped near the door again. And she's standing there and she listened. She said she can hear the heavy breathing of this creature on the other side of that door. That's how huge, that's how big, that's how large she said this thing was. So she's standing there. She said after about 20, 25 seconds, no more than that, she said, that's when she hear a loud thump. Like this thing jumped, she said. She said she heard this loud thump, and she could just hear this thing just run off, back into the wood line. Now she's terrified. Now she's scared. Now she don't know what to do because she don't know what this thing is. She stay up all night. She calls her friend again. He comes over. She say they started researching, typing stuff in like man dog and stuff like that. Bam. Then they came across dogman. And she said she started looking at pictures. And then she found something that looked like the same thing she saw. Now I asked her, what did this creature look like? She said when she seen that creature stand up near that tree, she said it looked like a shepherd in the face, the head. Ears standing straight up. Shoulders like us. Long arms with hands and claws. But it had bent back legs like a regular dog would have. And she said this thing did have a tail. She said it wasn't real long, but she said it did have a tail. So they research and they find out what she saw was a dogman. So he stayed over there with her. She said, but the days that he stayed over there with her, all they heard was howls, tree breaks, snaps, something running back and forth, but they never caught sight of this creature. So after a few days, he left. And when he left, she said a couple of weeks would go past where it was peaceful and it was quiet. She said, but after those few weeks is when this creature showed itself again. She coming in one night from visiting a friend. And as she was driving up, pulling up in her driveway, she could see this thing run from the backside of our house into the wood line. She said she stayed in the car until she knew that thing was gone and wasn't coming back. Now, that's her encounter. Hope you enjoy it. So get ready for the next true dogman encounter. Now this encounter right here happened when a guy was out fishing. Something that he said he always did. So he said he was out fishing. And while he was out fishing, he noticed that everything was dead quiet. But he paid it no attention. He still fished. And while he was fishing, he finally caught his first fish. Reeled it in, took it off, he put it in his cooler. The bait back on, he throws it back out, hit the water. Said after he out there trying to catch his next fish, said he could notice movement on the other side of this lake. He said, but the movement was so fast, it would duck. He said he just couldn't lock in on it. It moved so fast, back and forth, back and forth. So he trying to lock his eyes in and see what this is. So after a few seconds, he brushed it off and he paid it no attention. Caught another one. Reels it in, take it off the hook, put it in the cooler. Put some bait back on, throw it back in, hit the water. He said after about a few minutes, it's when he can hear these sounds coming from on the other side. He said, but he can't describe the sounds. He said, but it was a sound that he didn't hear before. So he listening. It would stop. It would make this sound. Stop. Make this sound. Stop. And make this sound. He said, whatever it was, did this repeatedly. So he brushed it off and didn't worry about it. Still continued to fish. Said as he was fishing, he noticed something walking on the other side just behind the brush. He said whatever it was tried to conceal itself. He said it was walking from its left to its right. So he looking and he saying to himself, what is it? Because he don't know what it is. All he know is something walking on the upper side of the brush from the left to the right. Now, mind you, he don't know what it is yet. So he watched this thing, whatever it is, walk. And when it was walking, he noticed that it was a gap. The brush would stop and then it's a gap. He said the gap had to be probably about 8 feet until it start back up. Until that brush start back up. He said, so as this thing walking, it's getting near where its gap at. He said that's when he see this long snout start to come out from that gap. He said at first that's all he could see was a snout, a long nose.